gina-record ko na. I'm currently recording your class so that you can watch it on YouTube. So first, in this activity, so each group will present a disorder and then they are going to present a case story. So after nila na mahambal ang case story or makwento yung case story, I will give you time, ang class, to think about what is the possible disorder na pwede natin ma-diagnose sa case story. So, I forgot to tell you, but if you have your DSM-5 there, so paano na inyo DSM-5 dara, ibutang nyo na sa tupad nyo kay we are going to discuss about what are the possible disorders and dara kita based ang aton nga diagnosis sa aton nga DSM-5. Okay, so so for example si group 1 after niya tapos hambal ang case story, hindi anay pag i-present ang next slide kay ihatagan ko kamo sang time. So to the groups that will present, so just tell me if tapos ng case story so that I can give out the time for your classmates to think about what is the possible disorder. So okay lang group 1, presenter number 1?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige. So, ready na kayo? Sige.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's welcome presenter number 1, group 1, for their presentation about substance-related and addictive disorders.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I hope my voice is clear. So we are the group 1. Today we're going to discuss or report about the substance-related and addictive disorders. So to start with, we first have our case problem. Next slide, please. So a man named Thomas Matthews is a 58-year-old retired Navy living in Patherland Subdivision, Australia. His house is a few meters away from the convenience store, and every evening around 8 to 10, he would buy 3 to 4 bottles of beer before stopping by the guardhouse and offering the security a bottle to share it with him. They would drink together. However, Thomas would always go for another 4 to 6 bottles before he would go home. According to him, his first amount of alcohol intake is not enough to make him fall asleep. Next slide, please. Okay. Thomas grew up watching his father drink every time he would go back from school. His father would arrive before him, sit in the living room, and refuses to speak to anyone. Thomas would walk past by him. Years passed. From his high school to college years, Thomas was surrounded by his peers who would drink every Friday until the end of the week. It has worsened when he reached college until he tried to stop on his last year. However, when he entered the Navy, he went back on drinking and his alcohol intake doubled until he started to crave for it every night before he would go to sleep. After his retirement, he tried to cut his alcohol consumption and limit the time he drinks, but had difficulty in falling asleep and experienced involuntary muscle movement of his hands. Thomas would also drink 2 to 3 bottles every morning after he wakes up, with an addition of a bottle every 4 to 5 hours to lessen the tremors of his hand, resulting to his drunken state for the rest of the day. So that is the case problem, ma'am.
Okay, sige. Thank you very much. Dali lang, inanay. Ahay. Ahay. Wait. Hindi yun, pag-next slide. Ina lang, Okay, sige. So, ayun na lang, since na-spoil ka mo sang answer. Sige, pero spoiler, wala ka pa mati instructions, char. Sige. Sige, so, wala bisan na spoil ka mo sang answer, pero gusto kong mabalaan, anong reasoning ninyo? Why is it na mo na ang disorder? Okay? Sige, ha? Sige, so, I will give you time to think about it. So, pwede nyo mabalik sa first slide para mabasa na lang nila liwat. Mr. Presenter, Mr. Ardenia? Sister Ardenia, hello? First slide. First slide. Hello. Sige, so, amo na ha. So, panumdumin nyo kung ano ang naaamo na siya ang disorder. Okay, why is it? What symptoms can you point out in the case problem that would reveal why? Sige, Miss Sampil, can you open your mic? Okay lang?
Hello, ma'am. Good
Sige,
afternoon.
sige.
So,
Okay.
based sa case nila, na-notice ko nga si Thomas usually binge drink. He drinks like 8 to 10 for 4 bottles, 3 to 4 bottles regularly. So, amo na ma'am doon na ano ko nga alcohol use disorder siya.
Mm-mm. Okay, what else? Amo lang yun na. Do you have any more to add?
Ma'am.
Sige.
About ma'am sa
Wait lang.
father, I think.
Oh, okay. Sige, Mr. Baliaza? Do you have any inputs?
So, according sa case problem, do hindi pagid siya dahil katulog kung hindi siya makainom sang alcoholic drinks.
Mm-mm.
So, amo na diagnose siya as alcohol use disorder.
So, ano na siya? Where is it in the DSM-5 in particular?
Sa diagnostic criteria, ma'am.
So, sa diin.
Like, kag sa case problem,
Oo, gani. Pero diin da, anong nga niya sa symptoms?
Oh.
Sige, gina-practice ko kamo ha, how to analyze cases kay most of the time during board exam, amo gining dugagulo. So, kailangan, dapat, kita, you know how to reason, point out the symptoms, and in which particular na criteria there is a DSM-5 siya makita. So, based to be kay misample lang ako no, binge drink. Okay, hindi siya sa alcohol use disorder na diagnostic criteria naton. Kay Mr. Balyasa, hambalya, hindi katulog daw kung hindi makainom. So, diin na da siya. Okay? So,
Sa diagnostic criteria A, ma'am, 1, 2, and
so, can you tell me what is that one, diagnostic criteria A, 1, and 2?
diagnostic criteria A1 is alcohol is often taken in larger amounts or over a longer period than was intended. Biyan mo na ma'am sa case problem ni Thomas Matthew.
Okay.
Na present siya.
Sige, how about you, Mr. Balyaza? Where is it? Na pwede mo ma-infer nga amo niyo siya nga symptom.
Sa A man, ma'am. Diagnostic criteria A. Number 4. Craving or a strong desire or urge to use alcohol.
Okay, sige. Any more from your classmates who would like to have their input? Okay. May input sa case pa.
May tolerance siya, ma'am.
Sige, Miss Tawag.
May tolerance siya sa alcoholic drinks. Like, nakaano na siya, 8 to 10 dapat ang mga bilang bote nga maubos na. So, sa diagnostic criteria, A number 10 siya na bilang.
Okay. Sige. Any more from the class? Raise your hand lang if you like to answer, ha? Sige, wala na? Wala na input? Sige, so, group 2. Okay, sige, Miss Lancero.
Sa diagnostic criteria A, number 2, ma'am, there is a persistent desire or unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control alcohol use.
So, why is it that amo na siya?
Ay naka-statement sa problem, ma'am, na gina-try cut or stop ang pag-drink but then hindi makaya.
Sige. Any more? Last one. Yeah, who would like to share their inputs? Okay na? Sige. So, Mr. Ardenia, can you reveal to us the diagnosis? And okay, sige. Group 1, take over.
So to continue, for our brief diagnosis, we first have the alcohol use disorder, where alcohol use disorder is defined by a cluster of behavioral and physical symptoms, which can include withdrawal, tolerance, and craving, which were all mentioned before by our classmates. For withdrawal, the hand tremors and the insomnia if Mr. Matthews cannot have enough alcohol intake in a day. And for the tolerance, of course, from when he was still in high school, he did not even need to drink anything or before he would go to sleep. But when he started in the Navy, there was minimal alcohol intakes that he would need before he can actually fall asleep, like 1 to 2 bottles, until it maximized into 6 to 8 to 10 bottles, and resulted to his cravings for alcoholic beverages every single day, which resulted to him being neglectful towards his responsibilities due to his drunken state. And even if he is aware of his apparent worsened condition, he needs to continue because he does not have any choice because of his withdrawal symptoms, which connects to the alcohol withdrawal brief diagnosis, which states that symptoms can only be relieved by administering alcohol. So for our diagnostic criteria, this will be further reported or discussed by Ms. Salarda. Next slide, please.
So now we are going to discuss about diagnostic criteria. Alcohol-related disorder under alcohol use disorder. A problematic pattern of alcohol use occurring within a 12-month period. First, alcohol is often taken in large amounts or over a longer period than was intended. In our case, Thomas would buy 3 to 4 bottles of alcohol first, and then he would add another 4 to 6 bottles because he feels that his first amount of alcohol intake is not enough to make him fall asleep. Second, there is a persistent desire or unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control alcohol use. After his retirement, he tried to cut down his alcohol consumption and limit the time he drinks. But Thomas experienced difficulty in falling asleep and involuntary muscle movement of his hands, so he decided to continue drinking alcohol. Third, a great deal of time is spent in activities necessary to obtain alcohol, use alcohol, or recover from its effect. In our case, Thomas drinks 2 to 3 bottles every morning after he wakes up, with an addition of a bottle every 4 to 5 hours. And every evening, he would buy 3 to 4 bottles of beer. He had a lot of time drinking alcohol to lessen the tremors that he is experiencing. Fourth, we have cravings or a strong desire or urge to use alcohol. Thomas tried to stop drinking alcohol on his last year in college. However, when he entered the Navy, he went back on drinking and his alcohol intake doubled until he started to crave for it every night before he would go to sleep. So number 5, recurrent alcohol use resulting in a failure to fulfill major role obligations at work, school, or home. Thomas kept on drinking alcohol morning till evening, so he wasn't able to fulfill his duties. He wasn't able to function well during the day. So, number 9, next slide please. Alcohol use is continued despite knowledge of having a persistent or recurrent physical or psychological problem that is likely to have been caused or exacerbated by alcohol. In Thomas' case, he tried cutting down his alcohol intake only to experience withdrawal symptoms of insomnia and hand tremors, resulting for him to go back to drinking. Thomas would also drink 2 to 3 bottles of beer every morning after he wakes up, with an addition of a bottle every 4 to 5 hours to lessen the tremors of his hand, resulting to his drunken state for the rest of the day. Number 10, tolerance. Under letter B, markedly diminished effect with continued use of same amount of alcohol. To lessen the tremor that he's experiencing, Thomas would drink 2 to 3 bottles of alcohol every morning after he wakes up, with an addition of a bottle every 4 to 5 hours. With this, Thomas had developed tolerance in terms of his alcohol consumption because his usual 2 to 3 bottles is no longer enough to satisfy him and ease his hand tremor. Number 11, withdrawal as manifested by either of the following: A. The characteristic withdrawal syndrome for alcohol, and B. Alcohol is taken to relieve or avoid withdrawal symptoms. Under alcohol withdrawal, which is the next slide, criteria B, number 2, increased hand tremor, and number 3, insomnia, which Thomas is currently experiencing in our case. So next is differential diagnosis to be discussed by Tara.
Okay, so hello again. For our differential diagnosis, this will talk about what makes certain disorder different from other disorder, or the diagnosis of one disorder to another disorder. So first, we have the non-pathological use of alcohol. The key element of alcohol use disorder is the use of heavy doses of alcohol with resulting repeated and significant distress or impaired functioning. It is important to take note that even if we drink every single day or every day in low doses, and occasional intoxication do not themselves make this diagnosis. However, in Mr. Thomas' case, he had 11 symptoms from the diagnostic criteria, therefore making him diagnosing him with alcohol use disorder. Next, sedative, hypnotic, or anxiolytic use disorder. Sedative, hypnotic, or anxiolytic substances include benzodiazepines, benzodiazepine-like drugs, carbamates, barbiturates, and barbiturate-like hypnotics. So sedative, hypnotic, or anxiolytic use disorder is actually has actually the same diagnostic criteria with the alcohol use disorder, but what differentiates them is the substance use that cause the symptoms. For example, for the sedative, hypnotic, or anxiolytic use disorder, it is the substances that were mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, while in alcohol use disorder, it is or the major cause of the symptoms is because of the alcohol intake. Next slide, please. For our conduct disorder, and lastly, for differential diagnosis, the conduct disorder in childhood and adult antisocial personality disorder. The essential feature of antisocial personality disorder is a pervasive pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others that begins in childhood or early adolescence and continues into adulthood. In addition, when antisocial behavior in an adult is associated with a substance use disorder, for instance, in this case, alcohol use disorder, the diagnosis of antisocial personality disorder is not made unless the signs of antisocial personality disorder were also present in childhood and have continued into adulthood. So this behavior usually starts at the age of 15. And as noticeable in the case, Mr. Matthews did not exhibit any antisocial behaviors. When he was still in his high school years, he had friends and they would drink every time they would be given the chance to, but they do not impose risk to anyone around them, or they do not disregard or violate the rights of others. They are simply drinking. When he was in his time in the Navy, there were no reports of him acting violent or exhibiting antisocial behaviors towards his workmates or in his workplace. And today, in his current situation, even if he would always be in his drunken state, he does not have any bad or very bad relationship with the people around them. Actually, he is in good terms with the security guard in the guardhouse that he shares his drink with every evening. So therefore, the conduct disorder in childhood and adult antisocial personality disorder is not associated with the diagnosis of alcohol use disorder to Mr. Thomas Matthews. So next slide, please. For our biopsychosocial factors, we first have the biological factor. So alcohol use disorder runs in families with 40 to 60% of the variance of risk explained by genetic influence. So even if we are not going to say that his father was diagnosed with alcohol use disorder because of many factors, for example, there was no professional assessment, the fact that he grew up with his father, his father likes to drink every single day, uh, poses him into to a much more vulnerability or risk towards developing alcohol use disorder compared to kids who have parents who only occasionally drinks alcoholic beverages. For the psychological factor, relationship with his father, with minimal to no interaction with his father. So next slide, please. Lastly, for our social factor, environmental risk and prognostic factors may include the availability of alcohol or including the price. So again, going back to the case, Mr. Thomas Matthews lived near or a few meters away from the convenience store. Therefore, he has his hand on the resources of alcoholic beverages. In addition, he is in a legal age to purchase any alcoholic beverages that he wants. So therefore, there is no limitation to his resources or his hand towards alcoholic beverages. In addition, acquired personal experiences with alcohol and stress levels also affects this diagnosis. For example, for Mr. Thomas, he started or his experiences with alcohol started with his father when he was young, when he witnessed with his own eyes his father drinking in the sala or in the living room without interaction, without sharing any interaction between the two of them. So additional potential mediators of how alcohol problems develop in predisposed individuals include heavier peer substance use. Again, Mr. Thomas Matthews grew up in or had friends or circles of friends in his high school who loves to drink every single day or every Friday until the end of the week, even until his high school. So there, even until his college. So therefore, his peer substance use had a great impact on him, on his developing on his developing alcoholic use disorder. So that would be all. Thank you so much for listening. I hope it was clear.
Okay, thank you very much, presenter one. Sige, so any questions from the class about substance use disorder na disorder group? So I hope that you already started studying for the finals, no? Kay we are going really on amutulunan so but I've provided you already with the video lectures that you can listen to or watch into pagkatapos you study sa mga disorders nga na but any question from the class? So thank you, good group 1. You may kay ng slides. Sige, any question from the class before we proceed to the second group? Wala man ka mo klase 4, no? After 4? In case man lang mag overtime, but you can discuss more about the lesson. Okay, so ako na lang ma-question sa group 1, char. Sige, so sige, what are your group 1? So presenter number 1, what are your takeaways samtang kamuga research about your case bala about alcohol use disorder? Anyone from the group 1?
That there is actually a lot of criteria that needs to be met before someone can be diagnosed with a mental disorder or a disorder. In case to Mr. Thomas Matthews, a lot of people would actually think that drinking alcohol would be related to diagnosis of an alcohol use disorder, but in the DSM-5, it was mentioned or it was given importance that simply drinking, even every single day in low doses or like with a normal intoxication, does not relate to alcohol use disorder.
Okay, anyone else from your group? would like to say an input about what they have learned while they were making this case or researching about this case? Wala na? Sige. So, thank you very much, Group 1, for your presentation. So, now, let's proceed to Group 2 as they, presenter number 2, as they will discuss about the mood disorders and suicide. Okay, sige. Okay, ready na ka mo? Group 7, presenter number 2. So, same instructions. So, after nyo hambal ang case study, so, pause lang. Like, then yun, pag next slide para we will have the time for your classmates to think about what is the possible diagnosis for this case. Sige, so you may take over.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to present our case conference, which is the mood disorders and suicide. Our case is about a 12-year-old girl named Hale who lives with his father, Jack Spratt, her stepmother, Joan Spratt, her 14-year-old stepbrother, Hansel Frederick, and her 6-year-old half-sister, Gretel Spratt. Hale has only lived in his father's home for about 4 months. Mr. Spratt and Hale both indicate that she has difficulty adjusting to her new living situation. Hale has conflicts with her stepmother and stepbrother. Mr. Spratt is concerned that when he tries to talk to Hale about problems, she withdraws. Recently, her stepbrother found a note Hale had written to a friend in which she stated she had nothing to live for and everyone would be better off if she were dead. Hale indicated she was sad and upset when she wrote the note because her father grounded her for a month because she got an F on a math test. Also, she and her stepmother had gotten into a big argument over Hale not doing her course. Hale described her mood as generally sad and indicated it has gotten worse in the past month. Her effect was flat to sad during the assessment, and she teared up several times. She is also easily irritated, especially with her father and stepmother. Hale is experiencing sleep disturbance. On weekdays, she sleeps about 11 hours at night and generally naps after school. On weekends, she often sleeps until noon, resulting about 13 hours of sleep. She has her self-esteem is poor. Hale could not think of anything she likes about herself. She blames herself for being removed from her mother's care. Hale reported that she does not have much energy. She used to enjoy playing basketball but has not played since moving to Missouri because she does not have the energy or interest. Hale reported that she has had vague thoughts of suicide for about 2 weeks. She feels her stepmother does not like her, that she does not fit with the family, and she has thoughts that the family would be better off if she were dead. Hale denied ever making a suicide attempt. Hale does not have a specific plan and has not made any preparations to kill herself. Hale denied excessive fears, worries, or panic attacks. She denied hallucinations, delusions, obsessions, or compulsions. Hale denied problems with physical aggression, and her father confirmed this. Activity level, attention, and concentration were observed to be within normal limits. Hale denied symptoms of eating disorder, and her father confirmed this. There is no recent weight loss or gain.
Okay, is that all in your case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sige. So, I will give again the time for the class to think about what is the possible diagnosis. So, tanawon nyo sa mga mood disorders there. So, possible diagnosis of Jill. So, kung may answer na ka mo, simply raise your hand. Okay, again, Miss Ampil, sige.
I think, ma'am, Jill was diagnosed by major depressive disorder.
Okay, why do you think so?
Na-meet niya, ma'am, ang diagnostic criteria A1, A2, A4, which is insomnia or hypersomnia, or nearly every day. And, wait lang. Ang A7, pagid, ma'am.
Sige, ng A7.
Ang feelings of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt nearly every day.
Okay, sige. Anyone else? Basta may nakita sila nga iba nga diagnosis for Jill. Okay. Ano ayahan ang possible diagnosis for Jill? Okay, criteria A9 pagid. Okay, how about the others? Do you agree with Miss Ampil? Or basta may madugang pa ka mo nga input? Okay nga, why is it major depressive disorder? Why is it na hindi siya bipolar? Okay? Na hindi siya depressive disorder. So, hindi lang MDD. Kaya bala na hindi siya persistent depressive disorder. Okay? Na hindi siya may sa pagina mo sa children. Na hindi siya disruptive mood dysregulation disorder. Wala na, class? Sige. So, group presenter number 2, please reveal to us the answer. Sige, ano to? Balik ka na previous slide. Okay, so, it's... Sige. Sino sa inyo?
In the case of Jill, what are the signs or behavior that which falls to the criteria of major depressive disorder? First, let's define what is major depressive disorder. According to Oxford Dictionary, it is a mental disorder characterized by a persistently depressed mood and the long-term loss of pleasure or interest in life, often with the other symptoms such as disturbed sleep, feelings of guilty or inadequacy, and suicidal thoughts. So these are the brief diagnosis of Jill. According to Jill's father, she looked depressed and had difficult adjusting to her new environment. Jill talks lesser than before. She has a feeling of worthlessness and has suicidal ideation for 2 weeks but denied it. She lost interest of the things she used to enjoy and has low self-esteem and self-blame. She also scored a TT score of 74 of the withdrawn depressed scale and experienced hypersomnia. Jill has been diagnosed with major depressive disorder by Jack Horner, MD, child psychiatrist.
Sige, next.
In the case of Jill, it is obvious and was stated that she suffered and experienced most of the symptoms that was shown. Jill suffered from major depressive disorder, which is accompanied by hypersomnia or too much sleep. She sleeps about 13 hours, which goes beyond the normal limit a person could sleep. Major depressive disorder can also be accompanied by different disorders such as hallucinations, anxiety, aggressive behavior, and more. Jill shows 5 symptoms according to DSM-5. Having depressed mood most of the day, feeling sad, emptiness, and hopeless. She also have markedly diminished interest or pleasure or almost all activities most of the day. She also have insomnia or hypersomnia nearly every day. She has the feeling of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt, which may be delusional nearly every day, not merely self-reproach or guilt about being sick. Recurrent thoughts of death, not just fear of dying, but recurrent suicidal ideation without specific plan or suicide attempt or specific plan or for committing suicide. Our differential diagnosis of Jill's case. First is major depressive disorder, which responses to significant loss include feelings of intense sadness, insomnia, poor appetite, which may resemble in depressive disorder. It also referred to clinical depression. As we go back to our case, Jill has symptoms of uh, having lost interest in life, changing of uh, changing of mood, and too much sadness. It interferes with the person's ability to work, sleep, study, eat, and enjoy pleasurable activities. Another is persistent depressive disorder, which is also called dysthymia, a continuous long-term or chronic form of depression. You may lose interest in normal daily activities, feel hopeless, lack productivity, and have low self-esteem and overall feeling of inadequacy. This feeling lasts for years and may significantly interfere with your relationships, school, work, and daily activities. And the last is another is the bipolar disorder, which is a brain disorder that causes changes in a person's mood, her energy, and her ability to function. People with bipolar disorder experience intense emotional states that typically occur during distinct periods of days to weeks. That is called mood episodes. These mood episodes are categorized as manic, hypomanic, abnormally happy or irritable mood, or depressive sad mood. People with bipolar disorder generally have periods of neutral mood as well. The last is the cyclothymic disorder. Cyclothymia or cyclothymic disorder is a mild mood disorder with symptoms similar to bipolar 2 disorder. Both cyclothymia and bipolar disorder cause emotional ups and downs from manic highs to depressive lows. Cyclothymia is characterized by fluctuating low-level depressive symptoms along with periods of mild mania, hypomania. Low-grade cycling of mood, which typically appears to the observer as a personality trait and interferes with functioning. Looking back to our case, ara na si Jill sa case nga kung diin she think about having suicide. And ang mood, changing of mood niya, and then feeling of wala na siya worth and she's not being a part of their family. Next slide, please. The biopsychosocial factors. Jill is diagnosed with major depressive disorder, which is factors can be arising on different occasions and are thought to be connected from each other that resulting in its primary diagnosis. The biological factor causes are Mr. Spratt admitted to abusing narcotics and alcohol, claiming to have been sober for 6 years and goes to AA on a regular basis. About 9 years ago, he was admitted to a psychiatric facility for depression in a suicide attempt, currently on Prozac to treat his depression. As it is being mentioned, factors that can be arising on different occasions. Um, on the case of Jill, ang mga nagakatabo, ang mga significant situation nga natabo kay Jill, like started from she lived with his father and with her stepmother and stepbrother and sister. Ginastriktuhan siya. She developed the fear and trauma. She's being pressured by her stepmother. She didn't given a chance to be herself. I think that's contribute to these factors. Psychological factors or causes. When Jill lived with her mother, it is mentioned how she enjoyed a lot of freedom. Her father and stepmother are both strict in her eyes. While she understands that they have regulations because they care about her, she finds it difficult to adjust to them. Jill believes her stepmother wants her to be perfect and constantly criticizes her core performance. Her father, she believes, is too rigid. It is also a factor nga nag-develop sa iya nga disorder, which is ginastriktuhan siya, and then mas ang attention sang father niya is more nga nagakampi sa iya nga stepmother. That's why it contributes to the factor that develops his disorder. Social factors or causes. There were no specified instances where Jill mentioned over her social interactions with others. However, it is stated that she enjoys a lot of freedom, but this might be inflected also on how strict her father and stepmother is, with how she sleeps over 10 hours in weekdays and weekends. Jill is socially withdrawn not just to her family. Next slide, please. And that's the end of our case conference. Thank you.
Okay, sige. Thank you very much, presenter number 2. So, same question with, before tayo may proceed with the questions from your classmates. Same questions sa inyo. So, sang gaubra ka ba sang case ninyo? What are some of your takeaways or some lesson nga na-learn ninyo during the pag-imo sang case ninyo?
Okay, ma'am. So, the takeaways that we've learned during sang gapangita kami sang case problem naman is that the signs and symptoms of the mood disorders are interrelated with each other. May ara lang gid sa nga other signs nga maka-differentiate sa ila tanan nga naga-connect lang.
Okay. Other from your other group mates? Okay. Questions from the class regarding mood disorders. So, sa DSM-5 daan, if you know, damo gadya major disorder groups, but based man lang may lesson on, for example, tanan nga substance use. So, isa gina sila ka disorder group. Tapos, ang bipolar and depressive disorders. So gin-combine ko sila into mood disorders because they firstly affected the moods. Okay, but the DSM-5, they are separate categories or disorder groups. So any questions from the class regarding MDD, bipolar, ang or something that needs to be clarified or clarifications, especially gid sa mga wala ko na discuss dito sa video if you watched it. Okay, if you notice man, 'di ba nga ang first ko gid nga ginpatuon sa inyo ang signs and symptoms of mental disorders, right? Sa module 3. So kumbaga, if you notice, most of the disorders here have overlapping symptoms. Okay, so ang basis, kumbaga, the way we can differentiate them is if we rule in and we rule out, di ba? So rule in all common symptoms, okay, and then rule out mo kung ano nga disorder ang hindi siya mag-fit sa amo na nga description. So if you notice man na ang substance use disorder can be comorbid with mood disorder. So when we say comorbid, it means that pwede 2 or more diagnosis of a certain mental disorder. Okay, so amo na nga, if you notice nga some like for example, maybe ang first nga pag kadto niya sa doktor, ang first nga diagnosis may be depression. But then or may MDD, but then sa further nga inquiry, pwede madugangan sang doktor na okay, may possible substance use disorder siya, like alcohol use disorder. Okay, so na siya may posibilidad gina okay, kay kita as human beings, so we are very vulnerable with the different nga mga situations in life naton. So kumaga personally subong pandemic, that's an environmental factor that we cannot control, diba? So sa biopsychosocial naton, nakita natin ang biological. So nakita natin sa ilang presentation na okay, si father nila may ara sang possible alcoholism, diba? And sa case nga ni may depression man gali ang father niya. So mas higher ang risk. Okay, when we say risk, that's lang possibility man lang na, okay, possibility to develop that disorder. Okay, so and then we also see the psychological. So anong personality sang bata, anong personality sang case naton, 'di ba? Sa first case naton, anong personality niya. Okay? And environment. So sa case naton sa depression, 'di ba? Ang possible environmental factors is ang iyang adjustment with the new family. Okay? So, ang sa alcoholism naman to, sa alcohol use disorder, may it be possible gani nga basi may trauma siya or PTSD. Wala lang na-mention sa case. Possible man lang na. So, in his way of coping with the stress sa iyang work would be drinking, di ba? So, So, always remember when you, kung may mag-board exam o kung in the future, to determine what is abnormal and what is not. So, tandaan ka for these. So, danger, deviance, dysfunction, and deviance, dysfunction, danger, and distress. Okay? So, most of the time, so for example, sa aton diri nga case, distress, so makita tang distress sa bata. Pero ang sa first case na to sa alcohol use disorder, he doesn't seem to be distressed with the way iyang distress sa iyang habits. Okay? Second is dysfunction, pero araged makita ginaton ang dysfunction sa sa both nga cases. So sa first case naton sa alcohol use disorder, so dysfunction in his daily life, makita mo nga hindi siya ka-function without alcohol, hindi siya katulog without it. So sa diri naman sa second case makita man naton nga sa mood disorder, sa depression, hindi siya ka-function. So always siya asleep, di ba? May hypersomnia siya. And at the same time, hindi man siya ka-concentrate when it comes to her studies, di ba? Kay sa depression, ga-affect gid may brain activity man nga ga-affect. So that's why, for example, if you see someone or friend you be or classmate yung you know that is feeling depressed, so sometimes they really can't concentrate kung ara sa ilang depressive episode, kung gagwa ang mga symptoms of depression. So makita mo sa ilang hindi sila ka-function, hindi sila ka-kwa test, kay hindi sila ka-concentrate, okay, or even make decisions. Okay, so may impairment, may dysfunction siya nga aspect. So nahambatan na distress, dysfunction, danger. So danger. So danger, di ba? Danger sa self or danger sa others. So sa first case although wala man na mention nga danger sa others, pero siguro may danger man siya sa self niya, kay sa too much drinking, di ba, will cause us to have physical repercussions sa ulihi, di ba? Possible medical conditions like sa liver, di ba? And sa aton nga case diri, so may ara siya suicidal ideations. Okay, so how do we know? So may po siya nga danger sa self niya. So how do we know if it's time na to for example report someone who has suicidal ideation sa mga guardian nila or sa authority? So number one, mag-assess ka mo kung may plan gid siya. So balaan niya kung anong time and date, kay tapos anong method, kag anong place. So once nga nahambal yan na, so may possible danger levels gina. So secondly, so makita nyo man sa person nga may nga suicidal nga nagapahabilin na siya bala. So kumbaga, for example, if you know that your classmate or your friend has a dog na palangga yagid, tapos suddenly ginhatag si mong iya nga idong palangga yagid. So now na seemingly wala reason ha. So like wala some valid reason, like for example basi ma-vacation siya pa, though temporary. So kung do permanent gid ba lang nga ihatag si mo mga possessions niya. So that's also a possible danger sign gid nga. Okay, so basi may kailangan ginisang tawo nga nisang help naton. Okay, so amo na. So I know suicide is a very sensitive topic, but the more we talk about suicide, I think the more man naton nga ma-know kung sinong mga people that really need our ears get to listen to. So amo na, don't forget get to kamustahon yun yung classmate, diba? Or kamustahon yun in your friend, especially good if lately makita nyo sa iya pattern of behavior, though hindi siya the way nga he or she normally is, diba? So sige, ano pa? Basta may na-miss out ako or any question. Sige, so makita nyo man, gali nga ang suicide, hindi lang na siya in particular sa depression lang. Okay, so as I mentioned man sa aton nga video, no, hindi lang na siya sa depression. It doesn't really qualify nga kung may suicidal ideation siya or kung nag-attempt siya suicide, depression lang gid, hindi. So pwede na nga okay relate sa addiction, di ba? So sa substance use disorder, since he or she is using a certain substance, di ba? May effect na sa iya nga brain functioning. So sa vicious psych nyo, I hope na ara na kamo sa nyo sa drugs sa vicious psych ninyo.
Wala pa, ma'am.
Wala pa. Pero if you read read that portion, makita nyo gin nga may effect ang certain substance on certain neurotransmitters naton. And yeah, sometimes people, especially if they take hallucinogens, may hear or see some hallucinations that would force them to endanger themselves, diba? So same na sa depression. So especially with the extreme or very severe depression. So sometimes they have hallucinations, especially kung very ang ilang nga episodes are really really intense. Okay? So they may cause nga mag-suicide sila. So amo na. So sa bipolar disorder, so it's a mix, not a mix. So both dua, okay? So extreme na up mood or elevated mood, and extreme na down mood or depressive mood. So difference na lang sa bipolar 1 sa bipolar 2 is ang bipolar 1 is na-meet yung criteria for manic episode. So si bipolar 2 wala na-meet ang criteria for hypomanic episode. So si bipolar, especially kung bipolar 1, so na-mention ko naman na dito sa lecture video. So si bipolar 1, it doesn't hindi man gid need na kailangan may depressive episode ka. So, to meet man lang the criteria of bipolar 1, kailangan siya nakamit sa manic episode, which is, if I open again, the DSM-5. So sa bipolar 1, okay? So, manic episode. So, it's a distinct period of abnormally and persistently elevated, expansive, or irritable mood. So, an abnormally persistent, increased goal-directed activity or energy lasting at least 1 week and present most of the day, nearly every day. And, kumbaga, ang letter B dayon. So, may increased energy or activity or on 3 or more of the following symptoms. So, may inflated self-esteem or grandiosity, decreased need for sleep, tapos more talkative than usual, flight of ideas or subjective experience that thought are racing, distractibility, increase in goal-directed activity, or psychomotor agitation, and excessive involvement in activities that have high potential or painful consequences. Okay, so letter C here is may marked impairment siya in social and occupational functioning or to necessitate hospitalization to prevent harm to self or others, or there are psychotic features. So, halos pareho lang sila sang hypomanic episode, but the difference lang nila is sa letter C. Okay, so si bipolar 1 kay nakamit siya sang manic episodes, but silingon nga may marked impairment siya, especially gid sa iyang social or occupational functioning. But silingon, for example, sa iyang work, since very inflated ang iyang self-esteem, ang iyang mood, okay, so possible nga very very energetic siya, very very happy, tapos maubrayatan nga work, for example, na maubos niya without the need for sleep, diba? So may amo na. So another is ang excessive involvement in activities that have high potential or painful consequences. So for example, pwede na nga kung may kwarta bing mga friend or ikaw be, tapos nag-engage, since very elevated ang imo mood, nag-engage ka be sa impulsive Shopee buying. So di ba kay 12 na tapos nagbago lang sweldo be, tapos very very high ang imong mood, di ba? Very elevated or expansive without any reason, do kumaga di ba, the usual, kung nagiging excited kita, nagiging happy kita, di ba, if we are anticipating something, for example, kung excited kami mag-date or something like that. Pero sa manic episode, for whole week, do very very up ang imo mood, okay, do mo na without any particular reason. So so nag-engage ka sa impulse nga Shopee buying. So without even thinking na okay, sobra-sobra na imo nga na pang check out, 'di ba? Do mo na do or for example, nag sexual indiscretions or foolish business investments. So for example, since may sweldo ka, nag-invest ka sa stock without ever thinking how to navigate or how to increase your investment there. Okay? Or nag-engage ka naman sa risky sex, doon mo na. So, pwede na. So, ang difference, like I said, difference man lang sa hypomanic kag manic is, ang si hypomanic, hindi man gid severe ang impairment, okay? And hindi man siya need nga hospitalize ka. So, sometimes daan si manic episode, may possible ka nga delusions, okay? That's why na need na ma-hospitalize. So, in one of the movies that I assigned sa inyo nga ihimuan yung movie critic, so, may bipolar siya. Okay, so, tanawon nyo lang kung ano to nga movie. Okay, so, and look at the signs and symptoms if tugma man bala siya sa DSM-5. Okay? So, usually, pagidayon sa depression, kung balik kita sa depression, ang sa children, different man ang manifestation compare sa adults. So, sa adults, more on depressed mood and anhedonia. Meanwhile, sa children, more on irritability. Okay? So, irritable sila. Okay? And yeah. Ano pa gid? Any disorder that I haven't tackled much that you are gusto nyo nga i-explain ko pa further? Okay? So, amo na ha. So, study technique. So, learn the common signs and symptoms. And then, kadto ka mo sa differential diagnosis. Okay, what makes it na MDD siya kag hindi dysthymia. So, ang dysthymia or persistent depressive disorder, more on milder version of depression na siya. Okay, so kung si major depressive disorder, nagkaroon ka ng episode within the 2 weeks, si persistent naman niya, okay, so, wait lang. So, si persistent depressive disorder, so may depressed mood ka for most of the day, more days, as indicated by a subjective account or observation by others for at least 2 years. So, si persistent depressive disorder, though combine niya ni ang dysthymia plus ang long term nga do mas severe nga MDD, do mo na siya gin-combine nila nga do 2 years tapos may mild pagid nga nga symptoms. Okay, so pero tandaan nyo lang nga si persistent depressive disorder, wala yan na fully meet ang criteria sa MDD. Okay, and within siya 2 years, for the past 2 years siya. So, not only that you will look at the symptoms gali class, but also the onset of the time. So, usually, change sa time. Okay, makibot ka muna. Hala, tawag mo doon. May gali, ang time gali is a factor man gali sa persistent sa mga depressive disorders. So for mood disorders usually 2 weeks, for addiction kita nyo man dit 12 months or 1 year, for anxiety 6 months. So learn to differentiate the onset also kay magabot kita sa schizophrenia nga spectrum. So ang kalain mo lang that sa diagnosis is the passage of time. Okay, so how long does the person experience that symptom? So that determines what what disorder he or she has. Okay, so any questions, class? Before I check your attendance. Hopefully na na-explain ko sa inyo in summary what these disorders are. Okay, so like I said, so tun-an yung gid mayo kay dala na siya sa exam, and usually amugin na ang exam format pala more on case analysis siya. And also gali I have matag ko sa inyo, na-assignan ko ba ang do case analysis sa inyo sa muna nga week? May nabaton ka mga do assignment na about do quiz, practice quiz? Ang amo ni class of na-assign ko ni sa inyo. Alright. Wala. Tingala ko kag. Sige, so don't worry. This is not a recorded one. Practice quiz ni siya. So wala man siya due date. So you have the freedom to answer this one. So kada week may ara ka mo cases to practice your analysis. So essay na siya. So may answer naman na siya dayon. You can always see the answer dayon. But try practicing the case. Okay? So sige, so let me na lang check your attendance. So sa Wednesday, we are going to talk about anxiety and compulsive disorders. Tapos ang isa ma-start naman kita sa dayon sang trauma and stressor related disorders. So isa na sila ka family sa DSM-4 sang una. So ang anxiety disorders, OCD kag trauma sang una sa DSM-4, isa na sila ka family, but sa DSM-5 they separated. Okay? So sige, so please say present if your name is called. Wait lang. Sige, sino to may question? Sino nag-raise hand?
Ako, si Ganhem.
Ha?
Ganhem, ma'am.
Sige. Yes, miss, may question ka?
Saan, ma'am, ang next na report, ma'am? By Wednesday or Thursday?
Thursday, sorry. Boss gali is Wednesday, no?
Sa fourth group, bala, ma'am, ang amon nga PPT, ma'am. Saan or siya naman i-pass tomorrow,
Wednesday.
ma'am?
Yes.
Sige.
So,
Thank you,
tanan nga assigned sa Thursday and Friday, please submit them tomorrow so that I can check if sakto ang inyong diagnosis or kung may padugang ko nga details sa inyong case. Okay?
Thank you, ma'am.
Sige. So, presenters 3, 4, and 5. Presenters So, kung ara man sa inyo nga assignment, makita naman kung ano nga group ang amo na present. Sige, so